be by my side. Said the friends were overrated, but that was a lie. Tried to stay so secluded, let nobody see inside. I was really hurt and confused until I saw the light. That's when someone spoke to me, said that you can't do this on your own. Take my hand, you don't have to stand alone. That's what friends are here for. Encouraged to stand and stay. Trust in me, you don't have to be afraid. I do love you, and I do.
With a new name. And so we have taken the name Genesis Men's Hour and shortened that to The G Show. Welcome, I'm your host, Wendell Ellis. Excited to be with you this January 27th, 2012. We're live here this evening coming into your homes. We're certainly excited to be here. Our first show of the new year. We'd like to start out with some of our shout outs. I have a list of shout outs and actually condolences as well. We'd like to give condolences to the Lynn family, Alan Lynn, Todd Lynn. For many of us, he's known by several names. Alan Todd Lynn is a comedian from the Cincinnati community, and certainly we'd like to send our thoughts and our prayers to the Lynn family for his loss. For their loss as a family this week. Also, always like to shout out my mama. I've been shouting my mama out for almost 15 years, and she departed about a year and a half ago, and so I know she's still watching her baby boy on television. Of course, I'm on public access right now, so I don't know. I think she might be a little better off and a little happier if I was on network, if I had my own show somewhere, but I think we'll be okay on public access here at Media Bridges. Also, like to give a shout out to the Bengals. 4 Bengals in the Pro Bowl: Andy Dalton, A.J. Green, Jermaine Gresham, and Geno Atkins. And so we know that this was a good year. We have great opportunities on the horizon. Also like to give a shout out to Marvin Lewis and also the Brown family. Things look like they're turning around. UC, Xavier basketball, always. UC looks like they're going to be competitive going into the tournament. Always the Ohio State University and Urban Meyer. Thank you, Urban Meyer, for coming back home to the state of Ohio. We look forward to our football season next year. And one of Cincinnati's own, Adolphus Washington, defensive lineman, will be playing at the Ohio State University next year. Also, Ohio State basketball is in the top 5 in the country, looking good. And so we'll see how they fare coming up on March Madness. We'd also like to give a shout out to Barry Larkin as a hometowner, Hall of Fame inductee into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Of course, he went to Moeller High School, so I'd give a shout out to Barry Larkin. And of course, my list of basketball teams that I'm supporting during basketball season: Lakota West boys and girls basketball, Winton Woods boys basketball, Withrow boys basketball, Princeton girls basketball. And so those are a list of just a few teams, but of course, I root for all kids. I don't know necessarily that I have a favorite. I root for all the kids because I think it's important for kids to be involved in their schools and in their processes in addition to their academic curriculums. Today, we have what has certainly been a heated topic over the last 6-8 months across the world we started off with an Arab Spring, and then we went from an Arab Spring globally in the Middle East and Northern Africa, and that moved to an Occupy Wall Street movement that started back in September of 2011. And so we have with us today individuals that are involved in local Occupy movements. We have representatives from Occupy Cincinnati and Occupy the Hood. And so this is a hot topic. Remember that this is a live call-in television show that you can call and join into the conversation at any time. And we welcome you to ask any questions. I have some tough questions myself, but we certainly want to get there, jumped into this conversation. Nathan, this is Nathan Lane with Occupy Cincinnati. This is Robert Pace with Occupy the Hood.
Hello, Wendell.
And that's Vanessa Sparks with Occupy the Hood.
Thank you for having me.
I don't know if you can see Vanessa. She over there hiding. We're going to try to pull her into the conversation and get that little hat pulled up just a little bit. So let's start off with Occupy Cincinnati. Just give us the genesis of the Occupy movement, if you would, the Occupy Cincinnati movement, Nathan.
Okay, well here locally, Occupy Cincinnati, most of the members that were involved in the early planning for our particular occupation had been viewing the events in New York City for several weeks leading up to our particular action. And my initial exposure to the plans for Cincinnati's action was through Facebook, of all places. And to this day, I still don't know actually who started the Facebook page. I know I was one of the first 50 or so members of that page, and jumped right in at that point, got pretty active. But Occupy is by no means a single person's effort. There are a multitude of individuals who put forth a multitude of talents to make it happen, and all have their own individual causes that they bring to the table. So there's a lot of people that have put a lot of hard work into this movement from the beginning.
And when we look at Occupy Cincinnati and the social media, how many members are we up to, and friends, or how many people are part of the Occupy movement?
It's hard to really gauge that because you've got 10, 11,000 people on Facebook, 7,000 or 8,000 on Twitter. At our General Assembly meetings, we routinely have anywhere from 30 to 50 people present. Our actions generate 75 to 150 people at a time. So it varies depending upon what day of the week, what week you're actually speaking of,
Okay.
and in what context that you're talking about, whether it's individuals physically making their presence known on the ground in an action, or whether they're being active via new media or online access.
Okay.
So it's really hard to gauge the exact number, but I'd say we have several thousand
Excellent.
hardcore supporters regionally.
Excellent. So we know that there was Occupy Cincinnati, and then we moved into Occupy the Hood. So Robert, as a part of Occupy the Hood, or Vanessa as a part of Occupy the Hood, was there a reason why that splintered, that we went from Occupy Cincinnati and then we went to Occupy the Hood? I mean,
well, Wendell, it's not a splinter. I wouldn't say it was a splinter.
Or addition.
Because we are in solidarity with the Occupy movement across the United States and the world. It's just a different part. We just focus on mainly issues that affect minorities, particularly Black African Americans in Cincinnati.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we call it a protest or a demonstration, Occupy Cincinnati joins in with us in solidarity. And likewise, we do the same thing with them. So, it's
okay. So it's just one's more ethnic focused, racially focused, and
Well,
then one's more universal.
And we're more focused on issues that affect our community.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay. Vanessa, what did your engagement in this process happen?
Well, I was already active in the community with the People's Platform for Equality and Justice, which has taken on issues in the Over the Rhine community, and communicated with Walnut Hills and a couple of other surrounding neighborhoods. And then Occupy the Hood and Occupy Cincinnati came along, and the synergy was already there in the Over the Rhine community, so it was just timely for us to join efforts and support each other as neighborhood residents and grassroots.
Okay. So when we think about the Occupy movement, and when we look at the Time magazine Persons of the Year, as a part of that, we know it wasn't a person, but it was a movement that either from the Arab Spring into the Occupy movement. Have any of you joined any other movements, and have you demonstrated? Have you been to New York? Have you been to Zuccotti Park? Have you been to any of these other Occupies? Is there a place where we all get together?
Well, I can speak for Occupy the Hood. Occupy the Hood, when we started Occupy the Hood in, I think it was October, early November, when we started, it was maybe 4 or 5 Occupy the Hood around the United States. Today there's over 80 Occupy the Hoods in every major city of the United States, okay? It's kind of going under the radar because we are particularly an African American movement. But we have conference calls every week with Occupy the Hood throughout the whole country. So we are focused on certain issues, that affect our community. So we haven't really been out. Right now we're focusing on developing ourselves within Cincinnati. So this is our focus right now. But we will probably be going out soon to other places.
Okay.
I can't speak for myself. I have not traveled to any of the Occupies. I have a 9-year-old daughter, so it kind of limits my ability to travel caring for her. But we have many members of Occupy Cincinnati who have traveled to Zuccotti Park and have gone to other cities. Many of our members from Cincinnati actually have left and traveled, and there are a few of them in Portland right now, and a few of them in Oakland. So there's a lot of communication between the movements. There's also conference calls that occur on a national level with Occupy movement. it's definitely a lot of communication going on between all the different movements. The connections between them all are different.
So when we think about the connections and the relationships and the conference calls and the communication going both nationally, internationally, one of the big issues early on, or some of the big issues, that wasn't even pushback, was what were we trying to accomplish? What were the occupiers trying to accomplish? What were their list of demands? I mean, you're holding parks hostage, you're sleeping up overnight, there's encampments all over the place, but at no point did anyone have a list of demands other than it seemed like perspectives on this, we are the 99% versus the 1%.
I think the biggest component is trying to bring awareness to a lot of the issues that we all came together for in the first place. So the very presence of us in those parks and protesting, that was the first stage of a conversation that we felt needed to take place that wasn't taking place on all these issues that we all in Occupy feel that need to be addressed. They weren't being discussed or addressed, and so it was the first step of the process, and I think we're still in that process. I think it's still ongoing.
Okay, then when I started Occupy the Hood, when I first started, I understood that in order for people to get involved and to stay involved and engaged, was that we would have to be focused. And so at our first meeting, we decided that we were going to focus on the foreclosure issue that is affecting our community. But it's not only affecting the black community, it's affecting every community across the United States. So being that we're focused on issues, we're more in tune with each other, and we kind of know where we want to go. But with the ideas and the resources that we bring to the table, we are making a lot of progress right now.
So when you think about dealing with the foreclosure issue, from an Occupy the Hood perspective, what leverage or what inlets into that conversation, whether formally or informally, I mean, what does that look like?
What does it look like? Right now we have a legal team that's focusing on the foreclosures, and there we have a couple cases that we're working on right now, and we may even bring a class action lawsuit soon to deal with the foreclosures, because a lot of banks, you know, they don't want to fight, you know, because they know they're wrong.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and Occupy the Hood, Cincinnati, we have three demands in our foreclosure fight. Our first demand is that we want the state legislature in Ohio to pass legislation where they're giving the common pleas courts in Ohio the authority to modify the principles on loans, all loans that are in foreclosure other than homes that are unoccupied. The second demand is that we want the banks to impose a 6-month moratorium on all foreclosures, to stop more closures. It's been done in the past,
yes,
and we can do it again. And the third demand is that we want the whenever a bank forecloses on a home, that the city or county government pass ordinance where when they foreclose on the home, when they start the process, that they're forced to pay a $500 to $1,000 filing fee. That way they would be less likely to even start the process. And with the other two demands, they would be more likely to focus on trying to settle that home, to save that home, to keep that family in that home. So, I mean, we're kind of focused right now. You know?
Okay, good.
That's one thing I have to say in Occupy the Hoods, I have to give them props for that, is they early on decided they wanted to address an individual issue, which gives them the ability to put a lot more energy into that particular issue. And that to some extent, that is a bit of a weakness of Occupy as a whole, is that we're trying to address the multitude of issues. But it also gives us the ability that there's so many different angles to the problems that we're facing with economic injustice in our society, that it gives us the flexibility that if we see an issue that needs attention, we can pivot to that.
Okay,
So there's benefits, I think, to both approaches.
And like Occupy Cincinnati, I mean, you know, they have been a big resource, okay? We could not have done this without Occupy Cincinnati. Occupy the Hood can't do it without Occupy Cincinnati. They are a big resource.
We couldn't do it without that.
A big resource. We got to give them props for that.
So where are you based out of? I mean, it sounds like there's some phone numbers around here, people having conference calls. Where are we based out of? Where's Occupy Cincinnati? Are there offices for Occupy Cincinnati and Occupy the Hood?
At the present time, we still hold a lot of actions and meetings either at Piatt Park or at the main public library across from Piatt Park. We also have an office in Over the Rhine that we share action with Occupy the Hood. Brian Gary, who
Yes.
ran for city council a few
Yeah.
years back. He actually has loaned a space out to us there. And we're in the process of trying to nail down an actual warehouse space to occupy. So
Right.
it's not finalized yet, but I think it's going to materialize within the next week or so. And we have plan on keeping a presence in that park going forward. There's a good chance that we may be resolving a lawsuit with the city, and hopefully something good comes out of that.
Okay.
I can't say any more.
And I think the facility that we have in Over the Rhine that Occupy the Hood and Occupy Cincinnati share, it's at 1542 Elm Street. Occupy the Hood meets every Tuesday at 6 o'clock, 1542 Elm Street, and Occupy Cincinnati
We meet
meets.
there Monday and Wednesday.
And Occupy the Hood, we also, right now, our base is out of Avondale. We're in the Avondale Pride Center, which is on the corner of Burnett and Forest Avenue, 3250 Burnett Avenue. And we meet there. That's where we have our organizational meetings. We meet there every Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and we encourage everyone to come to that meeting.
Okay. So in terms of looking at these missions of Occupy Wall Street and Occupy Cincinnati, Occupy the Hood, it's something that had impressed a lot of people because it energized the grassroots movement. When you think about over the past 10 years, and when I think about the Genesis Men's Program and what we did for 14, 15 years, it was all grassroots. It was all in neighborhoods, community based. We've seen a lot of the issues around the parks. What's the relationship like with the city? We just heard you talk about things that you couldn't talk about, but in terms of the city, in terms of parks, what did that look like from your perspective of being involved, being part of that movement?
Well, one thing that was very apparent early on was the very fact that there's no public space available to the citizens of our community together past 10 p.m. There's no place where you can stand still. There's no place that you can lay down.
Yeah.
You're either trespassing or you're violating a curfew.
What about 2nd Street?
If you're walking down the
I'm gonna
street.
say 2nd Street. They sleeping up and down 2nd Street all the time.
Yeah, but
Unfortunately.
they suffer harassment on a routine
Oh,
basis
absolutely
by
they
the
do.
police and by other unsavory
Citizens.
elements.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it very quickly brought to our attention the economic injustice that the very least among us have to deal with on a routine basis.
Okay.
And
Because of that, the public space, Occupy Cincinnati filed a lawsuit against the city, okay? And early on, I was a member of Occupy Cincinnati. They don't know it, I'm still a member though.
yeah,
But
you haven't left.
I know.
Card-carrying member.
But as the lawsuit, I'm one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit.
Yes, he is.
So there's 4 plaintiffs, and then we have over how much money in fines
I
and
believe 26
tickets?
or $27,000.
$27,000 in
Hanging
tickets, arrest, and all that kind of stuff. And right now we're in the process of trying to resolve some of these issues. We're in negotiation with the city, our attorneys, the city, and ourselves, the plaintiffs, and the other litigants. We're in the process right now of resolving this, and I think we're going to hopefully resolve it with some good outcomes.
Oh
hopefully.
yeah, the city doesn't have a vested interest in what has turned into a global social networking and a global trend of really fighting back. Those are your people,
Right.
and so it seems to me that judges, it seems, across the country have ruled mostly favorably for occupiers.
It's been mixed.
Up to a point.
It's been mixed, but
Up to a point. In the beginning, it seemed like there was more
Yeah.
favor, and then,
Yeah.
after Bloomberg got pissed off, it seemed like things kind of went downhill in New York.
yeah, there's a large element of just First Amendment free speech that are being infringed upon, and I don't think a lot of Americans even realized it.
So what about